Damian is a successful advertising executive who seems to have everything most people dream of: money, influence, and a luxurious lifestyle. Behind that polished image, however, he has a reputation for being selfish and manipulative, especially in his relationships. He often charms women with promises he never intends to keep, only to disappear from their lives afterward. Expensive gifts become his way of avoiding responsibility and moving on without consequences. One day, Damian attends a corporate gathering on a private island alongside his company's leadership team. While he spends his time relaxing on the golf course, his superior Fred focuses on securing an important business deal. Their potential client, the head of Guinness, is interested in working with the agency. However, there is one major obstacle. The client's board wants to partner with a company that demonstrates stronger female representation in leadership positions. Unfortunately, Fred's agency lacks a single woman in a top creative role. The discussion quickly becomes tense. Seeing the deal slipping away, Damian steps in and confidently claims that the company recently appointed a female creative director. His statement calms the situation and keeps the negotiations alive. Later, away from the meeting, Fred questions Damian about this mysterious executive he has never heard of. Damian finally admits that he invented the story on the spot and plans to hire a woman for the position once they return home. Rather than being upset, Fred is impressed by Damian's quick thinking. He even hints that Damian could become the company's next CEO when he eventually retires. Realizing he now needs to turn his lie into reality, Damian immediately contacts his assistant, Ruby, and asks her to provide a list of female creatives working within the agency. As Ruby begins reading the names, Damian impatiently selects the very first candidate, eager to solve the problem as quickly as possible. At the office, Alex learns that several members of the creative team are leaving early for a trip to the pub, leaving their unfinished tasks behind. As usual, the extra workload falls on her shoulders. While she is trying to manage everything, Ruby approaches with surprising news. Alex has been scheduled to meet Damian the following morning because she is being promoted. Although Ruby keeps one important detail to herself, that the decision was made completely at random, the announcement overwhelms Alex with emotion. Fighting back tears, she explains how much the opportunity means to her. After spending 2 decades with the company and taking time away from work to raise her child, returning to an industry filled with younger employees had not been easy. For the first time in years, she feels that her efforts might finally be recognized. Elsewhere, Damian receives a phone call from his mother. Pretending he has everything under control, he assures her that he never forgot her birthday and claims he is already heading to the celebration. In reality, the only reason he even has a present is because Ruby had the foresight to purchase one on his behalf. When Damian arrives at the family gathering, his mother greets him with affection, but the atmosphere is noticeably colder from everyone else. His father and brother-in-law, Chris, show little enthusiasm about his arrival. The strained interactions suggest that Damian has never been particularly close to his relatives. Even his young nephews receive only brief attention before he finds an excuse to distance himself. Meanwhile, Alex enjoys a quiet dinner with her daughter, Charlie. Their conversation reveals a strong bond between them. Charlie casually mentions that her father is now dating much younger women and encourages her mother to be more confident and assertive. Although Alex and her ex-husband have long since separated, she and Charlie clearly share a deep connection and mutual respect. The following morning, Alex encounters Damian in the building lobby, excited about her new position. She immediately starts a conversation with him. However, Damian fails to recognize her and mistakenly assumes she is simply another woman trying to get his attention. As a result, he responds with playful remarks and subtle flirting. Alex, focused entirely on work, misunderstands his intentions and believes they are discussing professional matters. After parting ways in the elevator, Damian continues his habit of charming anyone who catches his attention, including Felicity, a longtime receptionist who has devoted more than 2 decades to the company. Soon afterward, Ruby escorts Alex into Damian's office. It quickly becomes obvious that he still has no idea who she is. Rather than admitting the truth, Damian confidently congratulates her on the promotion and falsely claims that she was personally selected because of her talent and experience. The two then join a creative strategy meeting centered on a new Guinness advertising campaign aimed at attracting more female consumers. Damian introduces Alex as an important addition to the discussion, yet embarrassingly reveals how little he knows about her when he cannot even remember her last name. As the brainstorming session begins, the male executives enthusiastically pitch ideas they believe will appeal to women. Unfortunately, their suggestions are based largely on outdated assumptions and stereotypes. Alex repeatedly tries to contribute meaningful insights, but she is interrupted or ignored whenever she attempts to speak. Recognizing the power imbalance in the room, she chooses not to challenge them directly. Instead, she forces a polite smile and goes along with the discussion, understanding that openly disagreeing could put her newly earned position at risk. Once the meeting ends, one of the creative team members quietly asks Damian whether Alex has been brought in to replace him. Damian dismisses the concern and explains that Alex's role is simply to provide a female viewpoint so the company can appear more inclusive. Unfortunately for him, Alex overhears the conversation. Frustrated, she confronts Damian about his attitude. Rather than listening, he becomes defensive and argues that she should be grateful for receiving a promotion in the first place. He goes on a rant about how men supposedly have it harder than ever. Alex has finally had enough. She bluntly tells Damian that people like him are exactly what's wrong with the workplace before announcing that she quits. As she walks away, Damian refuses to let the argument end. He follows her outside, continuing to criticize her and insisting that she is overreacting. So focused on proving his point, he fails to watch where he is going and walks directly into a pole, knocking himself unconscious. A short time later, two female paramedics help him regain consciousness and offer medical assistance. Embarrassed, Damian insists that he is perfectly fine and heads back toward the office. Along the way, he notices a homeless man sitting with a pigeon. The man makes a strange remark about never being able to escape, but Damian pays little attention and continues on. Back at work, something feels unusual. Employees are dressed differently, and several people stare at him as if he is the one acting strangely. When a coworker comments on his clothing, Damian responds with a joke, only to discover that nobody finds it amusing. Confused, he asks Ruby for an ice pack. Instead of helping him as she normally would, Ruby sharply criticizes his behavior. She even questions why he entered Alex's office, assuming everyone is playing some kind of prank. Damian casually replies that Alex was fired anyway. At that exact moment, Alex walks into the room. She looks confident, professional, and completely in control without hesitation. She sits in Damian's chair, shocked. He immediately protests and demands an explanation. Before anyone can respond, Fred arrives. To Damian's surprise, Fred appears far more modest than usual and even serves coffee to Alex. Then he pulls Damian aside for a private conversation. What Fred says next leaves him stunned. According to Fred, Damian has recently been promoted to the position of male creative director. The title sounds completely backwards to him. As panic begins to set in, he wanders through the office, searching for answers. Everywhere he looks, the world seems reversed. The company's CEO is now Felicity, the longtime receptionist. Most of the secretarial staff are men. Advertising posters feature attractive male models in revealing clothing, displayed in the same way women often are in traditional marketing campaigns. Unable to process what he is seeing, Damian rushes out of the building. The strange discoveries continue outside. A female taxi driver refuses to pick him up and makes a dismissive remark before driving away. Men can be seen carrying groceries, caring for children, and appearing in advertisements throughout the city. When Damian finally arrives home, the differences become even harder to ignore. Magazines aimed at stay-at-home husbands are scattered around the living room. The refrigerator is stocked with carefully prepared healthy meals. Even the books on the shelves seem altered, their titles reflecting a world where traditional gender roles have been completely flipped. Searching desperately for answers, Damian turns on the TV. The news only deepens his confusion. In this reality, even the Pope is a woman. On the streets, a movement called the Menonists is protesting for men's rights, using slogans that mirror arguments often associated with reproductive rights debates. Already overwhelmed, Damian nearly jumps out of his skin when a cat suddenly lands beside him on the couch. Unable to handle any more surprises, he rushes to his parents' house. There he finds another collection of bizarre role reversals. His nephews are happily styling each other's hair while his mother and sister, Sonny, relax in front of the TV. Moments later, Damian heads into the kitchen and discovers his father preparing dinner. By now, his stress level has reached its limit. He reacts so dramatically to everything he has witnessed that his father becomes emotional and starts to cry, leaving Damian even more bewildered than before. Determined to return his life to normal, Damian spends hours trying to recreate the accident that seemed to trigger the bizarre changes around him. No matter how many times he repeats the circumstances, nothing happens. Eventually, he sits down on a park bench, where the mysterious pigeon man joins him. The stranger claims that he, too, came from a world where men held most positions of authority, but he has been trapped in this reversed reality for nearly a decade. According to him, another man once managed to return home after regaining influence and status, giving Damian hope that he can do the same. The following morning brings more reminders that something is very different. Even simple routines feel unfamiliar, and his daily commute is filled with uncomfortable experiences that make him realize how many situations he once took for granted. Meanwhile, Alex is thriving. She has custody of Charlie, enjoys a stable home life, and appears far more confident than before. The society around her reflects the same role reversal Damian keeps noticing everywhere he goes. Back at the office, Damian attempts to use his usual charm on Felicity, expecting the interaction to go as it always has. Instead, she barely recognizes him and quickly dismisses him. During a creative meeting, Alex leads a discussion about a new Guinness campaign aimed at attracting male consumers. As ideas are presented, Damian is shocked to hear comments and assumptions about men that mirror stereotypes he never questioned in his own world. Whenever he objects, his concerns are brushed aside, leaving him increasingly frustrated. Outside work, Damian seeks advice from Sunny about how to gain respect and recognition in this strange new environment. She explains that appearance plays a major role in how people are treated and offers to help him improve his image. Soon, Damian is dragged into a complete makeover. Shopping trips, salon visits, fitness routines, and grooming schedules become part of his daily life. He spends weeks transforming his appearance, waking up early to exercise, eating healthier, and paying far more attention to how he looks than ever before. The changes begin to have an effect. People start noticing him, and even Alex compliments his new appearance. Encouraged, Damian tries once again to win Felicity's attention, and this time he succeeds. She invites him to accompany her to an important business lunch with Guinness's new CEO. During the meeting, the CEO questions whether Alex's agency truly understands the male market. Before Damian can respond, Alex skillfully takes control of the conversation and convinces the client to continue their partnership. Once again, Damian watches someone else receive the recognition while he struggles to find his place. Later, Felicity invites him to dinner at her home. Unsure how to handle the situation, Damian seeks advice from Sunny, who reminds him that professional success should never depend on personal favors or inappropriate relationships. The evening takes an unexpected turn, becoming increasingly awkward and uncomfortable for Damian. What begins as a light-hearted gathering soon spirals into chaos, ending in a shocking tragedy that leaves everyone stunned. At Felicity's funeral, Damian shares the strange story with Fred. Rather than offering sympathy, Fred finds humor in Damian's assumptions about how power and influence work. He points out that many men in the company have tried similar approaches over the years without gaining any advantage. Before the conversation ends, Damian learns that a special gathering will soon be held at a country estate in Felicity's honor. To his disappointment, however, he discovers that he has not been invited, leaving him once again feeling excluded from the circles of influence he is desperately trying to rejoin. Sometime later, Damian meets the mysterious Pigeon Man once again. The encounter is as gloomy as ever, but instead of discouraging him, it has the opposite effect. Listening to the man's hopeless outlook convinces Damian that he cannot afford to give up if he ever wants to return to his old life. Determined to take action, he travels to a countryside estate where an important company gathering is being held. Upon arrival, he is surprised to discover that the head of the staff is someone familiar, the Guinness executive from his original world. The man immediately points out that Damian's name is missing from the guest list, but Damian manages to talk his way inside by appealing to a sense of solidarity. When Alex spots him at the event, she is stunned. Damian confidently announces that he intends to compete for the vacant CEO position. Alex dismisses the idea, convinced that he has no chance of succeeding. As the evening progresses, Damian focuses his attention on Glenda, the influential chairwoman responsible for helping select the company's next leader. Hoping to win her support, he compliments her judgment and argues that choosing a male CEO would demonstrate how forward-thinking the company truly is. Later, he sits at the piano and performs an energetic song that catches Glenda's attention. Amused and impressed, she invites him to continue the evening at a nearby club. Alex decides to tag along, turning the outing into an unexpected group adventure. At the club, the three spend hours talking, laughing, and repeatedly ordering drinks. As the night goes on, their behavior becomes increasingly reckless. At one point, Glenda suddenly collapses, causing Damian to panic and fear that another disaster has occurred. Fortunately, she has simply passed out from exhaustion and intoxication by the time they head back to the estate. Both Damian and Alex are equally impaired. For the first time, however, they begin speaking honestly with one another and discover that they actually get along better than either expected. The next morning, company executives gather for a major strategy session. Key candidates are invited to present their visions for the future of the business. Damian volunteers to go first. His presentation focuses on embracing change, encouraging innovation, and finding new ways to move the company forward. To end on a memorable note, he releases a butterfly into the room. The insect eventually settles on Glenda's shoulder, creating an unexpectedly dramatic finish. Before the meeting can continue, Alex receives an urgent phone call from Charlie. Her daughter has suffered a dental injury and needs treatment immediately, but finding help on a weekend is proving difficult. Damian offers assistance, explaining that he knows several highly regarded dentists in London. He quickly contacts Sunny, whose blunt response is accidentally heard by everyone nearby. Despite her complaints, she agrees to help. Concerned about leaving Damian alone around Glenda and the board members, Alex insists that he accompany her back to the city. The return trip is anything but smooth. Alex drives aggressively, and before long they are forced to stop after getting a flat tire. While changing the wheel, she continues receiving calls from her ex-husband. Frustrated, Alex opens up about her past relationship and the difficulties she has faced over the years. The conversation gradually shifts toward workplace inequality. personal struggles and her determination to earn the CEO role through hard work. As Damian listens, he begins to reflect on his own behavior. Hearing Alex describe her experiences forces him to recognize how dismissive and self-centered he often sounded in his former life. For the first time since arriving in this strange world, he starts to understand the perspective of the people he once ignored. After Charlie receives the treatment she needs, Alex sincerely thanks Damian for helping during the emergency. Since the company meeting is already over, they agree to call it a day and head home. Later, however, Alex unexpectedly returns to the country estate and is surprised to discover that Damian has come back as well. Their conversation quickly turns into another argument, but this time the tension between them leads to a moment of mutual understanding. As they spend more time together, they realize that beneath all their disagreements, they are remarkably similar. The following morning, both of them attempt to leave quietly without facing the awkwardness of the night before. Instead, they end up running into each other and laughing about it. They admit that they enjoyed spending time together and are surprised by how much they have in common. For Damian, the experience is eye-opening, as he realizes he has never truly connected with someone on such a personal level before. Their conversation is interrupted when Alex receives a call announcing that she has officially been selected as the company's new CEO. Rather than congratulating her, Damian becomes frustrated. He feels the selection process was unfair and complains about how people are judged based on gender rather than merit. Alex quickly loses patience with his complaints and decides to terminate his employment. Back at the office, Fred and the other men give Damian an emotional farewell. For the first time, he feels genuinely appreciated by his coworkers. Later, he sits outside with Pigeon Man, reflecting on everything that has happened. Meanwhile, Alex is welcomed into her new role with a celebration organized by the company. That evening, Damian visits his family, where Chris helps him clean up after another run-in with the pigeons. During their conversation, Chris suggests a possible way to challenge the circumstances surrounding Damian's dismissal. The next day, they meet with a lawyer who believes there may have been serious flaws in the company's hiring and firing decisions. The lawyer explains that Damian could have grounds to fight for his position. Although the legal battle may become messy, Damian decides to move forward. Soon, the lawsuit sends shockwaves through the company. Executives begin worrying about the consequences, and tensions rise even further when major clients start reconsidering their partnerships. One detail particularly confuses Alex. Despite having information that could potentially damage her reputation, Damian has chosen not to use it against her. Wanting answers, she visits him directly and asks why he is holding back. Damian admits he is no longer interested in hurting people just to get what he wants. At that moment, Alex receives unexpected news. Following a series of developments, Damian has been named the company's new CEO. Instead of celebrating, Damian panics. He insists that he is not ready to return to his old life or become the person he used to be. In his frustration, he slips, hits his head, and loses consciousness. When he wakes up, everything has changed again. Damian finds himself back in his original world. Without wasting a second, he rushes to the office and is overjoyed to discover that Felicity is alive and well. He immediately tells Ruby that she deserves a promotion and promises to make it happen. His priorities have clearly changed. When Fred asks him to review advertising models, Damian refuses and openly criticizes the attitude he once shared. Finally, Ruby provides him with Alex's address, giving Damian the opportunity to seek out the one person who helped him see the world differently. Before heading out, Damian makes one final stop around the office. Determined to be a better person, he personally apologizes to everyone he has treated poorly over the years. Even the cleaning staff receive a sincere apology, including Glenda, who now works in a role he once would have ignored completely. With one last task left unfinished, Damian sets off to find Alex. When he arrives at her house, he immediately recognizes a familiar cat lounging nearby. Before he can say anything, Charlie opens the front door, takes one look at him, and promptly shuts it again. A few moments later, Alex appears. Unfortunately for Damian, her reaction is no better. The door closes in his face almost immediately. Refusing to leave, Damian begins shouting apologies from outside. He admits that he was wrong about many things and finally gives Alex the credit she deserves. He praises her ideas, acknowledges her talent, and even repeats some of the campaign concepts that he once dismissed. Slowly, Alex starts to believe that his change of heart is genuine. Rather than forgiving him immediately, she lays down several conditions. To her surprise, Damian agrees to every single one without argument. Seeing how different he has become, Alex decides to give him another chance. Several months pass. The advertising campaign they worked on became a massive success. Sales continue to climb, and the project receives widespread praise throughout the industry. Alex earns significant recognition for her work, and even appears in magazines celebrating her achievement. For Damian, the experience becomes proof that listening to others and sharing credit can lead to far better results than chasing personal glory. As for Fred, fate seems to have one final surprise in store. In a humorous twist, he finds himself transported to the same alternate world that once transformed Damian's life, where he comes face to face with the mysterious Pigeon Man. And that's how the story comes to an end, a comedy that uses a strange role reversal world to teach its main character empathy, respect, and the importance of seeing life from another person's perspective. If you enjoyed this movie recap, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more movie summaries and story explanations. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.